So if you ever have overtime, right, you need to break it down into possibly 3 subsections. Most likely just 2, but I put a third one down because you will encounter that, okay? So you've got so make sure you write this down on page 14 if you're joining. We are on page 14. You should have a blank page there. So you break it down into regular pay. So the question will mention, you know, a regular week for this person is 35 hours. Everything after that is overtime, okay? So if you work overtime, the regular pay is going to be whatever the question mentions as regular. Is it 35? Is it 37 and a half? Is it 40? What is it? So you just take the hours times wage. So this is essentially what we would have called the gross pay. It's just no overtime involved, but now there is overtime. Overtime pay would be the total hours you've actually worked minus the regular hours, right? That's what you need to, and often you'll just do it in your head, right? It's mental math, right? It's like, oh yeah, 7 hours over, got it. But if you need more specifics, there it is. You'll take your wage and you'll multiply it by 1.5. However, look at that little star on top of 1.5 and 2. This could be, it could be 2.5, it could be 2, it could be 1.25. Read carefully. The question will tell you. But 1.5 and 2 are the most common ones you're going to encounter. And then you have that cloud there where I basically just show you to go from yearly to bi-weekly, right? Look at the arrows. If you go to bi-weekly, from the yearly, you divide by 26 in that case, right? And you multiply going the other way. So it kind of helps you to remember which way does it go here. Oh, I think, see, I was just making this today because you have a good classmate that is asking for these things, and that's why I do them. Otherwise, I usually don't give formulas. Okay, what's missing here is go back to the overtime here. Okay, if you would have to answer the question total, in this case would be 1 plus 2 plus 3. Right? You have to add what you did in 1, 2, and 3. Like that should be self-explanatory, right? But that's what I forgot to add there to your notes, okay? And so this is where you come in. You make this really small, make it fit, right? And you'll be fine. But I see a lot of you not having a study sheet. You come in completely cold turkey, And like, don't be surprised if it's not gonna work for you, right? Like, you have to bring that in. That's why when I make a test or a quiz, I'm assuming you have access to that. So formulas and such, I will not really give you much there, okay? And we will also soon, we haven't done this yet, but calculating a raise, right? If you want to know the raise as a percentage, this is how you would do it. You find the increase in dollars, you divide it by your old wage times 100, and make sure you have a percent after it. To find the raise in dollars, you take the old wage, you multiply it by a percentage, but you turn that into a decimal. And so to get the new wage, you take the old plus the raise, and then you get your new wage there. So that'll come down the road. It is almost like a markup, right? This would be your markup, and the new wage would be your retail, okay? On your study sheet, you should probably also have a number line for calculating time, because I can guarantee you there'll be a table with the hours somebody came in and went out, right? And you're gonna have to calculate how many hours. Like, it's not even a secret, right? Like, you're gonna have one of those in there. So have a way to be able to do that fairly quickly, okay? And if you lost your study sheet, the one I gave you, just use a piece of loose leaf, okay? As long as it's handwritten, it's fine with me. I just like a different color so it sticks out in your binder. You're not having to make new ones all the time. Francis, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you referring to here? This? Are you referring to this piece here? Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry. Calculating the hours, just use the second method. Yes, you don't need a number line if you want to just use the subtracting method. Yeah, that's fine. The second method is, yeah, it's probably faster and fail proof, right? How about this? I just thought of this now. I'm going to give you an example here. So we're going to do an example here, an example there. Nick started earning $15 an hour. After his raise, he ended up making $16.80. What would this be as a percent? Right? Calculate the percent raise. The next example here, Emma earns $10.90 per hour and received a 15% raise. Calculate her new wage. So that's basically the applications for those formulas right there. So you want the raise as a percentage. How much of an increase did you get, right? This one is fairly easy to see. It's $1.80, right? Of an increase. So you go $1.80 divided by the old wage times 100. And that ends up being 12%. It's the equivalent of getting a 12% increase exactly. If it had been more decimals, then you just round to 2 decimals, right? So you basically need to subtract the before and after to get the increase here. Okay. New wage, you first need to calculate the raise as in dollars. So we would go 1090, right? We multiply it by 0.15. Also get a decent calculator, okay? 1.64 rounded to 2 decimals. So a 15% increase of 1090 amounts to $1.64. So new wage, you take the old and you add the raise. That's $12.54 per hour. Okay, so you have to be comfortable with that. We're not going to do this today necessarily, but it's coming down the road, so you should be able to answer questions like that. Go ahead. So once we're done, we're gonna talk about overtime. We're gonna do some overtime questions on page 11. So we're kind of going back. No, I had done 11 already, didn't I? Yes, yes, I did 11. We're actually on 13. Oh, Arabella, I think the first. No, this is actually correct because the increase, okay, the increase is what how much did you go up by from 15 to 1680? Okay, so the actual increase, the amount that they increased it by is $1.80. So that is actually what I meant to have here. So to clarify that, I'll say that increase is equal to 1680 minus 15, and that's where the $1.80 comes from. Okay, so this is the increase. Good that I saw that. Yeah, I just subtracted. Yeah, good question. Yeah, so I didn't make a mistake. It's just the increase, right? Mhm. It is as if, okay, let's put it in context. Remember, you buy something at wholesale, you mark it up, right? And now this is your retail, like what's the percent markup, right? And we would kind of subtract these two to find out how much you marked it up and divide it by the wholesale, which is in this case our original. And that's how you find the percent. Okay. I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't want you to be confused about that. Okay, we're gonna go to 13. Okay, so I will do 13 with you, and then I'll hand it over for you to do some work, okay? And my handy dandy highlighter here, because there's a lot to highlight in my opinion, okay? This is all overtime. Working with overtime, okay? So here we go. Pete works in road construction as a grader operator. His regular work week is 40 hours. Okay, so there it's like, okay, that's what a regular week is for this person. During the busy season, there's often overtime. For overtime that he works Monday to Friday, so overtime that is worked from Monday to Friday, he gets time and a half. Okay. If he has to work on Saturday, right, then he gets double time and a half. So lots of going on here. How much will Pete make if he works, right? He worked 45.25 hours during the week and 5.75, so 5.75 during Saturday. His regular salary is $15.77 an hour. That's his wage, right? So if we follow the formula that I gave you to a certain degree, you don't have to, as long as you show me your work and you organize it, right? Regular, this is Monday to Friday, okay, would be 40 hours. you're over, right? You're over for sure. So the first 40 hours, you're getting paid 15.77, right, per hour. And that is calculated in a bit. We're going to do the setup first. That way we're staying on the same page here. Overtime, Monday to Friday. How much did we work overtime? Well, right, if anything over 40 is overtime, then it's 5.25 of overtime. So I will show that as follows, right? So this will give us how many hours we worked overtime, right? By subtracting the regular and the actual hours worked. Then you go 1577, but during Monday to Friday, you earn time and a half. I will ask you to do this, okay? So you will multiply your wage by 1.5. So put that down there. Double time and a half, we will go times 2.5. So you're making 2.5 times what your wage actually is. So we will have to go times 1.5 here because you make time and a half, right? So this is very important to get this right. So this you can do in your head, right? It's 5.25 hours of overtime. Let's figure out what this is. I'd like you to actually do that using a calculator, right? So you go 1577 times 1.5. You actually make 23.66 an hour when you're working overtime during the week. That's what you're calculating here. Right? So for 5.25 hours, you're making 23.66 an hour. Isn't that cool? Right? We will compute that in a bit, okay? So this is my 1, this is my 2 overtime during the week, and I have a third line. What is the third line? That's overtime on Saturday. And that one, I don't need to subtract anything because they tell me it's 5.75 hours. And I make 1577 normally, but on weekends, I make 2.5 of what I normally make. So I'll just add another line here, 5.75. And let's figure out what that is. 1577 times 2.5. So you're making more than double of what you normally make. You make 39.43 an hour on Saturday. That's pretty sweet. So there are my 3. Will there always be a third one? No. Mr. Jackson, couldn't I have just bunched up the Monday to Friday overtime with the Saturday? It's just all overtime, right? No, because you're not getting paid the same. Okay, so you can't do that. So now let's go ahead. 40 times 15.77. Oops. That's why I like a 2-line calculator, because you can see immediately that you made a mistake. That's 630.80. Then you go 5.25 times, I'm doing this one here, 23.66, and that's 124.22. And the last one, that's 226.72. So you've got regular, overtime during the week, overtime weekends, right? So total 630.80 plus 124.22 plus 226.72. Sorry about that. And if everything works out right, you get 981.74. So I'm gonna underline, wavy underline the important numbers that make up the total. Okay. And there it is. That's the overtime. Yeah, 630.80. Go ahead. Okay, so now we're gonna do 12. And maybe I'll leave it at 12 and then I'll let you do what I have assigned and then we'll correct it later, okay? Yep. And we'll just have to add a few things to make it more applicable. So number 12 on page 13, you have Ingrid works and makes 11.82 an hour. A regular work week is 35, but the clinic wants her to work 42. Right? She agrees to do this if they pay her overtime, and she wants time and a half for the overtime, for the extra hours. What will the weekly payment be in this case? Watch the wording. If it's saying weekly, then obviously we're just doing it for 1 week. But you'll see that there are some that ask for a couple weeks or whatever. So we will go regular. That'd be 35 hours times 11.82. And we'll figure out what that is. So that's the first one. The second one is overtime or extra hours, right? And you're gonna go from 35 to 42. So I'm gonna do this, and you make 11.82 normally, but this is overtime, so you're getting time and a half of your normal wage, right? So that gives you 7 hours, and 11.82 times 1.5 rounds to 17.73 per hour. And that's 124.11. For the overtime, I go up 35 times 11.82. It's 413.70. That's 535.01 for the week. So now you're gonna have to follow me a little bit because I went through all these questions ahead of time and some of them I would like to add a few things. So the ones that I circle, I want you to do right now. So we're going to do 13 here. Okay, let's keep going. You go to page 15 now. Okay, so 15, you're going to go to question 3 on page 15. Okay, so go all the way to question 3. We're going to call this A, and there's going to be a B section. Determine the wage of the first job. So I want there to be that part. So this is on page 15, question 3. There's A, turn that into A, the question that they originally asked you, and then B, determine the wage of the first job. Okay, got that? Now we're going to go to page 16, and you go to question 5 there. And we're just going to add to question 5. So question 5, he earns time and a half for hours past 30. So there's that time card again. You get to practice. So make sure question 5 on 16 you add these words, or else you won't get the same answer as we are gonna get. Okay, the rest. And making sure question 3 on 15 has B added to it. So essentially, the one we circled, and then I'll say at the top here, do 1 to, I think it's 6. Okay, so we're going to do 1 to 6. But you start with that example that was on the previous page, okay?